Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. I don't understand. I literally turned it off and I turned it back on again. This keeps happening with OBS. I was going to say, the nice part about my stream is it's part, I was talking with Anna earlier, it's part of the brand to just be a hot steaming pile of trash, to feel and look like garbage. So felt a little under the weather, had a little bit of a cold, but I don't really care. So, because if you guys were expecting, you know, class, energy, you know, and any sort of wisdom, you know, this isn't the place for it anyway. So it's not like you guys are missing out on much. See you after next season, Mel. Yeah, you're welcome, you Jap. You know, you guys ought to be really freaking grateful because I have done now 2 streams in this. Technically, the season has started. I mean, we've been scrimming, right? So, you know, and I did streams. So, I mean, because I've always been a coach first and a content creator second. But I've actually done a couple of streams since then. And I'm hoping, like I said last time, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm double checking with Blizzard, but I'm gonna ask to see if when the beta goes live, that I can do a stream discussing all the changes and all the things that you need to know about the game, which I think you guys will find fun and interesting. But I'm pretty sure it should be fine, right? Because the NDA will, I assume, won't apply if the beta is live, but that would be awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we have pretty exciting news today because we're going to be working with Anima, Black Decron, Anima Kessel in Twitch chat. He's been part of the exclamation mark guest, really quick, but he's been part of the Stormcrow Productions crew, at the risk of sounding corny, for a long time now. I mean, I don't even know how many years now. Pretty early on in our growth as a channel and as an educational source. And he's been really, really helpful with moderation, with helping out with a lot of things, picking my brain about different things, giving feedback. I can't even think of all the things that he's done for the channel. And then comes to find out he's turned out to be a pretty good coach himself. Was looking through, I've got like a whole Microsoft Word document with this list of all the coaches that people were nominating and typing commentary and finding sources of their work. And I found a couple of PowerPoint stuff, and I knew he had done these before, but I'd forgotten. And it was actually pretty good. It's pretty helpful. And actually, Anima, if you can link those before we hop into the call in Twitch chat, maybe we'll do, or just send them to me over Discord so I can link them in chat a couple times. That would be great, because I really was impressed with the level of effort put into them. They were very lengthy and a little dry. But if you are really serious about learning the game a little better and you want kind of a one-stop all source, definitely worth a check out. I think going through it, I was like actually impressed at the things that were condensed throughout those. And it was well done. It was, when I say dry, it was through the length. It was dry, not through the presentation. The presentation was actually pretty clean. It was, you know, very, very visceral, very easy to understand, I think. So yeah, just put it in my Discord. Anything that you have like that, please do. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do something a little different from what we did with Amir last time. So with Amir, we went over some Overwatch League footage. He reviewed with me. I kind of play, whenever I'm hosting somebody, I try and talk a little less, which, as you guys know, is a challenge. But today we're going to be doing something a little different. So you're going to have to trust me on Anima's brain, and or I'm going to link this stuff. Wait, here we go. He's just sent me some right now. I'm going to link some of his documents where you can actually see the big brain, the proof of the brain. And then also, what we decided on is we're going to actually check out a couple Reddit posts. You know, not dank memes or comedy heaven or cringe-topia, but we're going to actually go over some of Overwatch University's posts, maybe even the competitive Overwatch, and basically go, you know, guys know Hammer Time, right? Reviewing other people's educational content, and just basically give our thoughts on it, scream, yell, debate, and just basically go over some of the other stuff, and so we can kind of have more discussion based. And I think you guys will find this quite entertaining. I know Overwatch League analysis is fun for a lot of you guys, but it's also something that's like dead game, bro, right? But some of the things I think we'll get into here will be definitely applicable in Overwatch 2 and just more fun in general. Or when you fell off hard, I don't know. I think you guys have got like your nostalgia goggles on. Overwatch University used to be way worse. I remember back when there were a lot more whiny posts about, and there was actual debate about whether ELO hell was a thing, and people were giving really bad advice. I think you guys have definitely, obviously people who have viewed my channel, who are serious about educational learning the game, you've obviously, exponentially or significantly improved at your understanding of the game. And so you look back at Overwatch University now like, oh, it's trash. But they have leveled up a lot in terms of map control, angles. The other day I was like, somebody was saying playing Hog, and they're like, no, you need to be flanking as Hog. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, can you imagine if people had said you should be flanking as Hog like 2 years ago? It would have been blasphemy. What are you doing? You're playing tank and going off in a flank. Oh, stupid Hog. People just have understood the game a lot more. And I feel like we as a community and a lot of the other educational communities have had a big hand in helping on that. So that's really, really good stuff. Yeah, exactly. So you have just leveled beyond the Overwatch University Reddit, but that doesn't mean that subreddit hasn't grown in understanding. Okay, so I'm gonna get my headphones or stupid earbuds, I guess, because as much as I hate these stupid things, I have to put them on, otherwise you're gonna hear Anima echo in my microphone. The worst part about it is my stupid cord doesn't reach, and I'm too stupid to get an extension. So I don't actually plug it into my computer. I have to plug it into the speakers, but the speakers have like this little white noise thing when I plug it in. It's like shh, and so it's like salting my ears, every single time I plug it in. But you know what? The sacrifice is necessary for the good of the community. So I've never been one to put my own well-being at the forefront. Just why I ask for all the cash. Hydrate, thank you. This is a professional stream. I'm surprised. I mean, these logos, had nothing to do with that. Let's give this a call. Hello?
Yep, I hear you.
Oh, I just turned I'm an idiot. I just had my volume turned all the way down. I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry. Thank you for the subscription, Lucky. I honestly just said hello, and I saw your mic activate, but I had my volume turned all the way down. So, hello, how are you?
I'm alive, which is
you're good. Not feeling too well either, are you?
I also have a cold, but I'm hanging in there.
That's good. So what? Anima is fine, right? I call you Anima.
Yeah.
I feel stupid. I've known you for this many years. Right.
Okay. No, yeah, it's understandable because I've swapped a lot around.
Yeah, and you're also not much of a memorable person. So let's talk about your history as a coach, because I honestly, personally, I didn't even know that you were into team coaching as much. I feel terrible. I'm like that abusive father that just goes off and gets cigarettes and then you never hear from him again. I don't know what you've been up to. I don't know what you've been coaching, and I'm talking with all these people, your references, and then oh my gosh, he's the greatest coach, and I was getting kind of jealous there for a second, and yeah, so just give us a bio of what got you into coaching, what you've done, what you've been doing, what you're planning on doing, and then we'll actually get into the more interesting things.
Yeah. So originally I wasn't planning to get into coaching, which is why I still don't have a ton of built up experience, ethos, etc. Basically, early 2020, kind of, I think a little before pandemic started or whatever, I was starting to give out some VOD reviews to some people because I always got into the strategy side of whatever games. So I gave some 3K Zarya player review, and they were like, "Hey, have you ever considered going into coaching?" And I was like, So obviously nothing happened directly from there, and then pretty soon after I ran into your community with the infamous "Pressure is Peeling" D.Va video. And then started creating more content later on in 2020. Moved on to eventually just playing for a couple low-ranked teams. Eventually moved to coaching a team for half a year. That's where those references come from as a Diamond to Masters-ish range team. We had some fun competing in a couple tournaments and stuff, and it was it was a really good learning experience. But obviously, biggest shortcoming for me right now is I just don't have as much hands-on experience, just because of the way things have aligned with having free time to work with teams. But the future will bring opportunities, I'm sure.
Right. Okay, well, that's cool. And then you're at this point just kind of unsure of what the future is going to hold. You're doing this kind of for your own personal satisfaction and just going to kind of see where it leads, I guess.
Yeah, it's a hobby thing for me because first of all, I'm a business student in HR, so I can like just there's ridiculous crossover between a lot of these business curriculum things and coaching stuff. So it's like super easy to study both at the same time.
Right.
And then while I don't plan to like go professional or something, I think it's something that I do want to like strive to become good at or better at even.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm sorry, I'm trying to have a serious conversation, and I'm getting hair checks in the chat. So
I know, I see it.
Yeah, it's like no. Okay,
have you open on the side.
So you gave me a list of things that you wanted to go over, and I think these are some interesting ones. And I'm going to put these in the poll, which I'm in the process of creating right now. Hammer Time, Cagers, content creation versus coaching. Alliteration, content creation versus coaching. You think that?
I just call it content versus coaching. I think that one is one of the more interesting ones because we can also BM Overwatch University to a degree while we're at it.
Okay,
no offense to the people there.
And maybe Cager too, because that's obviously.
It's entertaining. Yeah, it's like a double whammy.
Who can become a pro? That might be interesting as well. Who can become a pro? Talk fight structure. Okay, this one looks a little interesting.
A little more technical.
A little fight structure. How many people get stuck at years for rank despite... Okay, that, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go back. Fight structure, if it's technical... let's do something more fun.
That's fair enough. I recommend not doing is Ghost's best today. I think that's the one that I hope nobody chooses.
Okay.
So we might want to just...
more for me. You pick 3 more for me.
I think Tank's best for climbing is an interesting discussion.
Okay.
I think watching high ranks... That one's a little like... boring because obviously it's like useful to watch high ranks, but there's like a couple like interesting comments maybe we could look over. I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
And then last one I'll keep open. You can take your pick out of the remaining. Or it could just be other.
I can't do the Overwatch 2 one.
Because, yeah.
Because here's the thing: is even if I was, even if I was 100% right on my prediction, I can't basically tell people that.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Let's how people get stuck for years. That's an interesting one. How people get stuck. Let's just put how people get stuck. All right. Let's do this. Duration. We'll do. We'll even do 2 minutes. Okay. So there you go, chat. There's the poll. Give it a look right now. And we'll leave that one open for a little bit. So we're gonna do it for 2 minutes. So it should be. Actually, I should have done more than one vote per person, but it's fine. Because I would have liked to have people vote for multiple things. And we'll pick a couple to go over. We should have at least time to go over at least 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I guess we could kind of discuss, like, getting into the Overwatch League scene and, talking about all that kind of stuff. We'll see, obviously, like, okay, so here's an interesting thing to talk about. So instead of Overwatch League, I was going to pick your brain about Collegiate. What are your thoughts on Collegiate?
Oh, that's funny because I was just watching a little bit of that for the first time in a while yesterday.
Yeah.
I think Collegiate is honestly a really cool system in NA specifically because you do have like a lot of that infrastructure and more public support.
Yeah.
But it implies that if we move more towards Collegiate, you're probably, first of all, indirectly taking off attention off of tier 2, like the other tier 2.
Yeah, and they seem to be kind of bleeding into each other a little bit.
Especially when you have players on both teams.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
my opinion is that like if they can get them to bleed over more, I think that kind of removes some of the restrictions. I think the only downside I could be is I can see underaged tier 2 players being like it's unfair because I'm not old enough for college, so I don't have the resources. Or
even people like older athletes who are like I mean there aren't really that many who are in their like later 20s, but it would be a little that could put them in a slightly awkward situation. That was something on my mind too.
You don't have the resources. All right, guys, you guys got a few more seconds to vote, so and then we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so let's do this. We have how people get stuck voted as number 1, so we will start with that one. How people get stuck. Well, let's see.
Go into the mud.
Yeah, exactly. Stuck, content versus coaching, watching high ranks. I need to remember that order. Okay, let me change my thing here, and you can obviously do whatever you want on your end, and I'm just gonna have it pulled open.
Yeah, I have it pulled up on somewhere
Okay,
else.
brilliant. Okay, I'm gonna get my Epic Pen as well. Hopefully that looks good on the people's end. Chat, let me know if it looks weird in your end, because I don't have a second monitor pulled up. I just have chat pulled up.
Looks like Overwatch University. It always looks weird.
Yeah. Okay. I've been playing Overwatch on Xbox since 2020. I'm still stuck at silver and role selecting on open queue. Ugh, open queue. I feel like I should be playing better by now, and it's embarrassing being so close to goal border and still low. I'm trying to narrow my biggest issues down. Could probably be I play too many characters. I have many hours, most hours in D.Va, Mercy followed by Orisa. I seem to play more Orisa, more of the D.Va now, and I feel more comfortable on her. I also like Zarya for supporting me. I play more.
How much of the cast is this?
That's a lot. That's a little bit of everything. Okay, so let me just kind of like open the floor up to you. So I think the first, there is a little bit of an issue with this post and the fact that there's so many low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
That it's kind of hard to know where to start. So maybe we can use this as a springboard to answer the post, but then actually go into people that maybe don't have so many low-hanging fruit. Like they've been stuck
We're not
in
here. We're not here specifically for DMing the 14-year-olds.
Right. Like, I mean, I imagine most people watching this that are interested in hearing this have not been stuck in silver or gold for years. Don't play, multiple different heroes across different roles. Don't,
It wasn't me.
Yeah, I think most folks are probably a little bit more intelligent. Let's not play intelligent. Let's say more educated with how they approach the game. So, like, let's address the post first. What are your thoughts on the post?
First of all, I relate because I fell into a similar pit trap for many, many times. I don't think I actually got to plat on all roles on one account until like earlier this, like in 2021, like late 2021. I think it always, to a degree, is like looking for the wrong, like looking in the wrong places for help, though.
Yeah.
Not in the way that Overwatch University is the wrong place to look, but in the way that they're asking the wrong questions, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you're stuck, it's pretty, like, obviously playing too many characters is an issue. But realistically, you can play as many characters as you want, and you should be able to get past silver. So it's like, generally they're looking too much at, hey, which heroes should I pick? Which hero, what's my hero pool? I just can't find a main to climb. And it's like, I don't really think you actually need one until you're like really trying to push for higher ranks. I think there's probably some issue with your game understanding first year.
Right. What do you think about like streamlining things? So the way I look at it is I agree with you, the fact that you should be able to climb to silver, even gold. It doesn't matter the hero pool. You can play whatever if you just have good fundamentals. But what do you think? The way I look at it is sometimes that's almost always the case. But sometimes I'm almost like, let's get you down to a certain hero pool early on, just because it kind of removes some of the clutter from the brain. You know what I'm saying? Because what ends up happening inevitably, if they're swapping the soldier and reaper, they start thinking about that hero and not about the fundamentals of the game, and they start messing up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think that, I mean, obviously it helps a lot for like to narrow down the width of the pool, so to speak. Like, I talked about that a lot in my in some of the stuff that I've written, but I like, obviously I think it helps. I just don't think it's necessarily the only place that they should be looking.
So where would you be looking? Because I think that's an important concept there. Is like looking in the right places for things. I think like the red flag for me right here is like where he's talking about, or she's talking about, Overwatch League. You shouldn't be watching Overwatch League if you're in silver. I mean, unless it's just for fun. You're gonna learn nothing.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn nothing.
You don't have the understanding for.
No. I mean, really, Overwatch League becomes only relevant if you're like Diamond Masters. And then even then, it's just mostly to kind of give you maybe some, oh, that's a cool position to hold, or oh, that's an interesting use of that tech. The way it's just a different game. It's like it's a different game.
Yep.
Even in like top 500 or compared to Overwatch League, it's just a different game. Like it's played differently.
Yeah.
So
really, like, unless you're like an analyst or coach or like someone who like actually has like a lot of experience crunching down the game, it's not going to help that much to watch Overwatch League.
No.
But it sure is fun.
So what would you recommend in terms of where to put these hours? Because watch video guides, gameplay reviews, Overwatch League, what needs to be cut? Like, what's the answer there for you?
I think I don't like video guides much for picking up heroes early on. Sometimes hero POV.
Get rolled, boy. Okay, sorry.
I think hero POV things can sometimes be a little better because so the problem that I have with hero guides a lot, and like the reason I don't personally write them, even though there is a place for them in like early education, is just by nature of it's too much to remember. Like you're not gonna remember all of these different things about various aspects of play. So it's like, yeah, you could watch like your streamer playing the hero maybe, because then you like pick up some of these things subconsciously.
Yeah.
But it's a little dicey. I think the biggest thing is honestly, most of the time that people are in like bronze, silver, I was actually like considering writing a guide on this that I wrote halfway and then scrapped, like I do with a lot of things. But I think the biggest culprits are usually like almost always are either like cover usage or like complete tunnel vision and not looking around at their team, at the map, like different ways to use the map. So I think either targeting one of those things and like really just like trying to like train up like one piece at a time, I think would probably help them a lot more.
Yep. I would agree with that. Being a little bit more focused in like what you're actually looking to improve at. Especially if you've been playing for years, because the thing is like I would maybe not encourage being so focused in your improvement goals if you're brand new to the game. I think, just play the game. Just have fun, play the game, see what happens, try all the heroes, try all the maps, you know what I'm saying? But if you've been playing for years and you're not improving, or any really lengthy period of time, then it's probably because you are continually broad or inefficient with what you're trying to do, or just not playing to improve. So I guess for me, I would be like agreeing with you in terms of giving yourself some singular focus about cover usage, giving yourself some singular focus, checking out your hero pool a little bit, making sure you understand the fundamentals of the game, making sure you're not watching. Oh yeah, I spend 30 minutes every day watching a video guide. That's just not. You should have enough information. Or Overwatch League, right? Yeah, you should have enough information processed on like a weekly basis to have some goals to work on for that week, and then that's really all the educational content you need. From the rest, it just needs to be playing more. But like I feel like we've pretty much answered the post here. Narrow the hero pool a little bit, understand the fundamentals, spend less time watching Overwatch League and video guides. How would you say, like, there's a Diamond player who's never touched Masters, and they've been in Diamond for like 8, 9, 10 seasons. What do you, obviously it's a player by case basis, obviously, but what are some big problems that you may have seen in your coaching history that, this is a big one that people really mess up?
I mean, the biggest thing a lot of the times is they just don't look at their team. Because, I mean, maybe it's a hot take. I mean, I know I've discussed it with you before. I don't really think micro exists that much, at least it's like on like a conceptual level. So all of that has to all the decisions stem from this team context, even in ladder. And like I know I differentiate with this from like a lot of ladder players who are like, oh yeah, I'm just here to limit test or whatever. I don't really want to look at my team, but it's like, well, that's how you're gonna get better with those micro decisions. So a lot of the times when a person's like stuck at a higher rank or whatever, they're doing fine on these individual things. Like they have good mechanics, they have, or at least decent. They have pretty good decision making, pretty good positioning, but they're usually doing like these slight mistiming things or just slight unoptimal things with like coordinating with what their team is trying to do. So it's like trying to make a coherent sentence, but each word is just its own word, like not connected to these others. So then you end up with weird things like is monkey watch sick or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the spelling is there, but the grammar is all over the place.
Exactly. Yeah,
that actually makes sense. I think micro only exists within proper context. Like, when's the best time to use, bubble is sorry. I don't know. It depends on what your team is doing.
Yeah.
Depends on what the enemy team is doing. It's not just something that you can just black and white. Use it to block shatter. Use it to purge nade. Those little tips are awful at distracting from the more important concepts.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, all those people are like, bubble the monkey, and I'm like, yes, but also no if they have
Yeah.
something else you need to bubble.
Yeah, you
Or
just need
maybe
to
your
think.
monkey just doesn't need to go in right now, man.
Yep, yep, exactly. And I think that's a huge thing. I mean, you've seen my reviews and how I sound like a broken clock. Timing, your timing is bad, Ball. Your timing is bad, Tracer. Every single review, it feels like with a DPS or a tank, there's something to do with timing. On a nade, why are you throwing an on a nade right before the fight starts? And then all of a sudden the fight starts and you don't have nade. You know, it's like those kind of things, like over and over and over and over. But that is a huge problem. I would agree. Is like you might have all your ducks in a row and you know all the nade spots, but you just aren't thinking about, is this the best time to use nade? Yeah. And it's actually astonishing how easy that is to fix. Like, not easy, but it's how simple of a concept it is, but nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. How many YouTube videos have you seen talk about timing as a basic concept? None of them. Very, very, very rare to find anything like that whatsoever. And that's a big one. That's a big one, actually. Any other ones off the top of your head?
If they do talk about it, it's often so buried because of like usually the more technical people talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times they have really crummy ult usage too, but that's like a whole separate issue. Like I just mean, like I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just because you don't get as many chances to practice like using it effectively in a game as like compared to like abilities or positioning. But a lot of people are like really, really bad at sometimes the mechanics of like landing an ult if it's a mechanical one.
Yep.
Otherwise, they're just not using it in a way that actually benefits their team, like super early in a like over and extended before the team can follow up, super late, piling it on top of the other ults. So I feel like those are like my two biggest suspects for higher ranked players. But obviously, these issues are like so much on a case by case basis that like.
But it's something to look at. It's something to look
at.
Sure.
Yeah. It's easy places to start if you're looking to improve. Like you could just pick anything. You don't have to pick your weakest point to improve as a player.
No.
And I mean, eventually it accumulates.
Right. It's all about return on investment. If it's a strength, how can I accentuate the strength more? That might be a relatively easy adjustment. If it's a weakness, maybe it's really hard to improve that. But if you do improve that, it's going to be a big return. So it's like you kind of have to look at the situation. I have people being like, "What do I need to do to get better?" My first question is always, "Well, tell me how your normal Overwatch day goes." Yeah. And usually that's when you start to see, okay, that's probably the biggest issue there. Welsh Linglong, just looking at the comments here. Pick one role, play it till you get whatever rank you want to do, then go to the next one. Maybe that's not a bad advice. Maybe a little bit simplistic, but not terrible. Replay code of the game you lost. That's always helpful. Playing less heroes, playing fewer heroes. That's one of my grammatical pet peeves. Isn't it? If you can count it, it's fewer. If less is generally like I'm less stressed. Or I have fewer apples, if you can count it. I have
fewer brain cells, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, okay. Playing fewer heroes definitely will help you focus, improve faster.
Enjoying the game around your skill level. I do think that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a little bit of a gratitude, like an attitude of gratitude. Cringy, but it's true. Like, you need to be like, okay, as I climb up, games are going to remain this frustrating and this hard for the most part. I think.
Yeah. When people are like,
go ahead.
When people are like, oh yeah, let me make it to diamond. The games are going to make so much better. Top 500. It's not. It's not better.
I will say this though. I will say that is partially true in one aspect. My experience in bronze, silver, gold, plat, even to a lesser extent diamond, the toxicity is actually way higher in lower ranks. Way higher in lower ranks in terms of especially people criticizing each other for hero picks or saying that someone's throwing or that you're hacking. That is way, way, way more prevalent in lower ranks. I found myself actually I've started joining voice chat again when I started hitting masters and then GM it was fine because in lower ranks it was almost unbearable to be in voice in lower ranks. Thank you, Neo. I appreciate it. Holy cow. 4 years.
First.
Yeah.
First indeed.
Banger. But yeah, if you guys in silver gold are like, oh, it's so toxic, yeah, it is. At least in my experience. I don't know if it's like on console, but in PC it was definitely more toxic in lower ranks. I don't know what you think about that, Anima, but it gets better the higher up you climb. It's like as people get smarter, their mouths stay shut about most stupid stuff more often. Maybe. Okay. Maybe that was just me. Okay. So that was interesting. Let me find out what we've got next. What was the other one? It was, oh dear, Cager. Okay. I don't even think my man is here. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he might have dipped.
You know, guys, do you want to see how much of a wholesome, sweet person I am? Look at this. I upvoted his post, and that's my little award, wholesome award.
Wow, so we're like 2/12 of it already.
Yeah. So we're lifting that post by itself. To be fair, I honestly actually have not even read this post. Don't tell me.
Yeah,
I don't have time to read all these things.
Treat.
So I have not even read this. So I'm gonna have to, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have to kind of give this a read over. And I mean, honestly, I'll say I'm sorry, Cager, but I just Listen, I upvote an award every post that you post, though. I gotta support my mate. So okay, the fall of Jane, where he's at now, the coach fallacy, and what we can learn. So red flag number 1, woo! The fall of Jane. You just name dropped a very controversial person in the community, and I can't not but think that this is a little baity. But I'm not gonna blame you for using bait if you use it well. So the way I look at it is like everybody has to use a little bit of clickbait, but you need to deliver on it for it not to be clickbait, if that makes sense. Okay. TLDR, Jane Soffa has fueled the inspiration for the post about content coaches, simplicity, evaluation, knowledge, communication, and leadership, also known as Suckle. Hey guys, I'm Cager, don't care. Didn't ask. Today I'm here to discuss. Don't care. Didn't ask. Don't care. Didn't ask. The video. I watched the video. I thought it was a good video. Painted things in a very positive light, which is always a good thing. Yeah. And have you read this, Anima?
I have read the post. I have not watched the video. So together we make up one whole.
Perfect. I feel bad that I haven't read this now because I'm gonna have to take up this time to skim this. People like Jane are content creators first, content creators second. I mean, that's a pretty inflammatory statement right off the bat. I don't know. So maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't remember a lot of what happened. So I was a Jane fan. I wasn't a big Jane fan, but I was a Jane fan back in the day. I watched some of his streams. I did not watch a lot of his more casual stuff. I didn't watch like the Guess My SR stuff. I didn't watch any of that other stuff. But I did occasionally, especially early on, I'd watch some of his Overwatch League analysis at like 1.25. But I don't really know what happened with him in the DAOS field. There's a lot of things that I have heard, which I will keep to myself, but I don't know if he was streaming at the same time. So this is already a pretty inflammatory statement. People like Temporal, Spiral Natter, ISX are coaches first, content creators second. I mean, I'd agree with that for the most part. I don't know. I know Temporal obviously prioritizes his team. I know Natter has always prioritized his team as well. I don't know IOStux as much. I mean, he hasn't been a team coach in ages, but I mean, I guess in terms of one-on-one coaching, I guess that makes sense. Okay, so let's just go down these points here really fast. And I guess even though I haven't read it, we can just kind of break down point by point if that works for you.
Yep.
That way it'll kind of break up the monotony. Start off with, by far the least significant of these factors comes the ability to actually coach or being a content creator. Comes no secret you have to study and learn the game to return to coaching. There's a small noticeable gap when it comes to analyzing the game for a team. No longer you're reviewing a singular hero, dealing with the tech, applying the knowledge you already have to a more broader, more holistic level of team setting, which can be tough at first. There's certainly game knowledge game from playing. You studied heroes for the past year, done content creation every day, like know enough for each to be able to speak and apply it, especially when on VOD reviews. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this one? I'm just gonna open the floor to you because
I think it depends. I think there's actually I mentioned this really briefly in a comment on his post, but I think the problem is by looking at it as a coach versus content creation, you're actually missing a lot of nuances because, like you said, with IOStux, kind of there's a very big difference between team coaching, individual coaching, even analysis, and things like that. So, for example, knowledge. I don't think knowledge you actually really need for team coaching nearly as much as people think, because I think that a good coach largely ends up working as a player manager, so to speak, at least in a lot of roles, because they have to put on many hats. And while obviously game knowledge is really important, I think that it's going to be more important that they can start some fire under the players, so to speak, and get things cooking.
Yeah, but I'd agree with that. I think the biggest thing for me is that I will come in with an alternative take. I think knowledge is very important for team coaching, but I think the type of knowledge is different than what you'll pick up from one-on-one coaching.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I know actually a lot of the stuff that I learned from team coaching helped me to be a better one-on-one coach. I think it's really dangerous to only be like, all right, how are we using on and aid in this matchup, and what about flashbang, and like that kind of stuff just doesn't really carry over as well. You really need to be able to kind of look at things from a big perspective as like, how are we communicating well? Did we have a plan? Did we have a good setup? Are we dealing with the enemy ultimates? What about this map? How are we communicating with each other? Are we timing things well? Like that kind of stuff, even in some of the psychological stuff as well. Like, are people giving it their all? Can you motivate people? Can you keep people focused? That is definitely, I agree with Kager. That is something that is, I wouldn't even say there's a small but noticeable gap. I would say it's a large and very noticeable gap when it comes to analyzing a game for a team. There's even a big gap between analysis and actual coaching. I think that's one of the things that people didn't understand when, I doing these Overwatch League scouting reports, and I'm like, I scouted the London Spitfire. I noticed all of their mistakes. And then I go on, and yeah, we do better, but we don't go 8-0.
Not magically all fixed. Yeah.
How did he do that? Why is he? There's a big gap. Like, even the world's greatest coach wouldn't be able to make a swap like that. It's about being able to knowing something isn't the same as doing it. It's like, how come I'm not like literally ranked number 1 in every single hero in Overwatch? Because it's in these processes. It's not just the mechanics, but it's in the process of playing the game. I can't make those snap decisions like I can when I sit back and analyze it. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting.
I think that's a better way of phrasing it. It's definitely a very different type of knowledge than I think people think of knowledge when it's like Overwatch coaching.
Right. And I think the catchphrase is whenever people say that knowledge isn't as important as other things. Like I think it's because we assume that if you made it to this point, you already have the base set of knowledge skills.
Yeah.
It's more about how you use them, right? Yeah. You can't get to Overwatch League or Tier 2 without knowing how the game works.
Where the health
right, exactly. But once you get there, the differentiating factor is usually something other than knowledge, usually. Okay, so I guess we go to evaluation here. Did you have anything else with knowledge before I move on?
Nope, I think that covered it.
Okay, when devising new strategies, it's easy to get caught up into what is theoretically the best thing to do, but when you're coaching a team that have hero pools, maps, pool, team you're against, composition, many more, ability to evaluate the fly and what is the best option strategy was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do as a whole head coach. Very good trace play who's mediocre in other roles. What I really want to have another coach alongside me because we can discuss these things. Bit of a pick already. Want to play Brawl? Want to play Double Shield? Want to play Double... Fortunately, I chose the Brawl option to win the third round 9 times in our season. Relating back to the topic of content coaches such as Jane, the skill isn't really developed. Oh! Ow! Yeah. Yeah, I mean, wow. Okay. We're not pulling any punches here. I'm a little like, yeah. Okay, your thoughts. Like, let's hear what you say.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm towing away from the Jane conversation because, while I think it's fair enough to try and like pull people in with that, I'm not gonna speak on stuff because I don't want to be inflammatory.
Right.
But I think that I want to comment specifically on something Kager said of something that he doesn't feel coaches who create content talk about enough is this evaluation aspect and like this flexible adaptation on the fly, especially to non-optimal situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason it's not really talked about is because it's so situational. And it's like, well, obviously you can't walk through all of these multiverse situations right off the bat. And even if you're providing like guide steps for evaluation on a situation like this, so much of this is what you pick up from experience. Like this is what coaching experience gives you.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little ironic for me as he's saying that, but I've obviously encountered like similar issues when playing on teams, working with my team, where it's like trying to work with people's hero pools, preferences, team environment, just because you're working with people. That's the bottom line and you have to, people are hard to evaluate how to like use them effectively. And obviously I say use them, but like you're also not able to just use them like a tool. They are a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, and this is also something that's like a familiar issue for me with like HR stuff, because I think a lot of HR people have like this Achilles heel sometimes of falling into that, where it's
Right.
like seeing people as a resource, literally. So I think that Cager is right that it's one of the biggest differentiators of what makes a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd call it evaluation. I don't necessarily have a better term off the top of my
Decision
head.
making,
Maybe
really.
I would call it maybe improvisation,
Yeah.
but yeah, something like that. Like it's basically a flexible decision making.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the wisdom, and like you said, a lot of it just comes from the experience of I've been here before in similar situations, so I can make a decision about it. Um, and sometimes like having an outside perspective can be helpful, but I do think that having experience within does help a lot with making decisions like these, because you've been here before. I think, I mean, and to me, it's also, this also hits a little bit close to home too, because I distinctly remember when I got re-signed. This is like the last time I read a Reddit post about me, and it was about, oh, Commander X and Spylo get re-signed to London Spitfire, and like one of the comments that got downvoted, thankfully, but it was hurtful. It was like, oh, wow, they hired the Twitch coach and they didn't immediately do better. I don't know why they're re-signing him, And I was like, hey, man, screw you. You have no idea what I've done. But that's the thing, is like people, like when you like when I got into, whenever I was coaching a team, I generally dropped content creation like a bar of soap, and I was full on team was priority, team was this, and this, and content creation was really something in between, to help pay the bills, but also just to kind of force myself to learn as like during these off times. I'm learning, I'm practicing. Like even during this past off season, I was eating a lot of content. You know what I'm saying? Even though I wasn't able to stream, I was still consuming a lot of different people's content, and I learned a lot of different things, and I discussed with a lot of different coaches about things. And that's part of why I even want to do this series. It's a little bit selfish. I want to see what I can learn from you guys. I think that what he's saying here is you can't debate with it. You can't debate with it. He's right. He's absolutely right. This is an important skill, and it's something as a content creator, especially if it inhibits and conflicts with your time spent actually coaching, it's not as developed. It's just not. The only thing that I have a problem with is that he says such as Jane, right? And I think that's a consistent problem that we're gonna have, because you just don't really know. Yes, Jane spent a lot of time content creation, but how much work did he spend on improving his own coaching skill? How much time did he spend working with the crazy Australian contenders team that was whatever? You don't really know. I don't honestly even remember how much content creation he did during the Dallas Fuel season. Was that taking a significant portion of his time? I don't know. Could that time have been spent elsewhere? I don't know. So I just think I think most people's problems with this post probably had to do with the name drop. And it just comes from, oh, take that name out of your mouth because Jane is great. No, it's just general respect, because I don't know the situation. You might be 100% right. You might not be. And I think that's just going to be my main problem with the post, because I think I agree that there's nothing wrong about this. He's right. Taking time spent away from your team is, it's going to cost you.
I think one of the most like uncomfortable, this is going to go a little bit off track, but I think one of the most uncomfortable things with the coaching scene in Overwatch is that it's so inextricably tied together with content creation for the most part.
Yep.
Or connections.
I mean, I know.
And that
I know
usually
firsthand.
happens through the content creation.
I know
because
firsthand.
yeah, especially because like it took you years of grind with content creation to get the eyes on you.
Yeah.
I know dudes like Egoist Cat who are obviously very, very competent in terms of their game understanding, who get not nearly enough eyes because arguably their content creation game is a little weak in terms of really pulling in the eyes and being entertaining. So that's why you have this like really blurred line between the coaching and the content creation and the analysis and all these things. And that's why I think it's like a very interesting discussion starter post. And like Cager specifically here, this isn't like, oh yeah, let's beat up your post to me. I think that it's one of the few that actually has interesting concepts worth discussing right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like discussion is usually stemmed from controversy. So I don't always think that controversy is even a bad thing. I don't think being disrespectful is something that Cager necessarily intended, but I do think that it causes conversation, and I think that's usually often a good thing. So, I mean, this is way better than a hero guy where I'm just going to be like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, controversy is fun. That is an interesting catch-22, though, that you brought up there, because it's like, through content creation how a lot of these coaches do get eyes on them. That's how I got my job. I mean, it required a competency beneath that. It required a good reputation within the tier 2 scene with the players that Hadi and Molfig knew. But I don't get that job probably. I don't get that trial probably if I'm not doing the scouting reports. Yeah. And to be honest with you, those scouting reports were very much I wanted to do that. I enjoyed I felt like it was going to be a good opportunity to get a lot of viewers in stream, which it did. They were by far my biggest streams. But there was also like 5% of vengeance where I had a really bad taste in my mouth from the Overwatch League offseason.
Yeah.
I was very angry at the way that trials were ran. I was very angry at the fact that I didn't get any opportunities to even like interview with any teams that I felt like could have used an upgrade or could have used extra help. And also some of the coaches in this scene that I just felt like didn't deserve it. Not because they were trying, they just weren't. No, because I just knew that they just were not putting in the same amount of effort that I was, and that frustrated me. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bother with tier 2 coaching more. I am going to retire from this and I'm just going to focus on content creation because I've already proven to myself that I can handle the job. Yeah. I don't have to, but I need to make money. I need to be able to support myself. So I had to go into content creation and one-on-one coaching, and I continued to learn through that. And I was prepared for when the Overwatch League opportunity came. But that's the thing is, it's like, but you do that, and then you get into Overwatch League, and people go, "Oh yeah, he's just a Twitch coach. He doesn't have actual experience."
Yeah.
Even though they've clearly not seen my 3 years of Liquipedia
and if you don't, then they're like, "Who Megalol," right?
Exactly.
Like they're like, "Who's this nobody?" Or like, "Why is this player becoming a coach?"
Exactly.
So you're only allowed to be a coach in Overwatch League if you've already been coaching in Overwatch League. I hate to break it to you, Spylo.
Exactly. That's my bad. My bad. I need the experience, but it's like you need 10 years of experience. But, but how do I get the experience if I can't get the job?
The job role has only existed for 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. There's a couple other coaches who I won't call their names out who have contacted me asking for help and how to market themselves better as coaches, and what they thought about getting, because like it's not everything, but it is something, and I think a lot of coaches think it's what they're missing. I would be very careful though to say that content creation is the way to get picked up, because you have to be like, my trial process with London was rather exhaustive. I had to really know my crap. And if I had been there as the guy that goes in funny and roasts them and doesn't really actually have the communicational skills and the knowledge, then I would have looked like a complete ass. So I encourage you guys to if the coaches out there to build a brand, right? But do so only if you got the guts to back it up, if you have the knowledge to back it up.
And the networking is arguably the bigger thing, because it's like the middle ground between obviously, like, this just gets pounded into me on a daily basis at business
school. It's tough though. And I think, I'm not the networking genius. I have a lot of connections in tier 2, but making that jump to Overwatch League was definitely tough for me. I didn't have a lot of connections in Overwatch League at all. But yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Simplicity. This post is getting long enough, so ironically I make this as simple as possible. That's not ironic. That's not ironic.
It's fitting. It's fitting.
Ironic would be if it was a really long post. That's another pet peeve of mine. Holy cow. The ability to convey information to your players so they actually understand what to told them. Vital. You have to have knowledge of the role. If players don't understand, what's the point? Again, content coaches often don't take this into account. In fact, Jane was willing to go on tangent about the mechanics of it's been half the vine. This one again is relatively targeted at Jane, but you also have to understand that, like, again, I want you to go first. What do you think?
I don't know if it's actually like a content coach issue as much as an analytics issue and like an analysis issue, because I know for a fact that I fell into this one a lot when starting off with my team, because I was going in with like, oh yeah, I understand the macro, I'm gonna make them like do these cool positioning things and understand it all, and it helped them for sure. But I think that there's a distinctive I think Kager is like right on the money, that I think the simplicity in terms of how much you can actually apply to things is very important. But I just don't know if it's specifically a content coach issue, because there's plenty of content coaches or content creators who arguably just don't go into enough detail. Like they let's say you're Overwatch, where it's like, yeah, you're like giving me the baby food, but I actually need something with more nutrients than that.
Yeah. this feels a little targeted at Jane, which obviously the post is kind of about Jane. Not really. I'm not really sure what. Yeah. I mean, I remember that. I do remember that Jane did tend to go on tangents on stuff, but I mean, do most content coaches do that? I mean, I don't know.
No, for sure.
I mean,
I think a lot do.
I know I
At
did for a
times.
little bit at times. Yeah. Times. So again, fair point. Yeah. Is there going to be a review on the coach Rash Flygon? I believe Flygon is on my list to look at some point, but it's slow going. There, I got a list of like 40 coaches, and I'm working more than a full-time job. So, okay, goes without saying, communication, but having an attitude and conveying information to your players, even if you're right, is pointless. Okay. Wow. Okay, so I was guilty of It's really trying. Patience doesn't really exist. Advanced topic, you really don't have to foster. You don't really foster a rapport or relationship with your coachee when you're looking over just a single VOD of theirs, and you certainly don't foster it if you make it content in general. I don't understand this at all. Is this saying content coaches have less communicational skills because they're not used to communicating over just
or
like
that
to a
they
stream?
just don't have consistent relationships with the people they're coaching, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I could dig from this is maybe that content coaches are used to talking to 200 people shrieking nameless, chatters,
Yeah.
At least maybe that's just my stream. But, maybe you need to get used to communicating with people one-on-one. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I think the easy one that I will pick on a little here is as KJ clarifies in the chat, is I think while he does that, I will say I think there actually can be benefits to having a little bit of attitude and bashing heads. Maybe that's just me, but I think that there's like an honesty to the relationship, so to speak, and obviously you can't just be like wailing on each
I don't
other.
have a brush.
But like a little bit of
I'm sorry.
tough love here and there. Like I mean, it's just like your sibling, sometimes you're just gonna be like slapping them around,
Right.
and that's just life, right?
Right.
And I think sometimes for some people, something like that and like a little more heavy-handedness can like really help them see things, while with other people take a lighter hand.
Right, exactly. Like, now I think, but that kind of still, I guess, falls within this point. Like, this is one aspect of communication, the first paragraph, but then he kind of, I guess, circles it around. It's just like good communicational skills in general tell you when to be tougher, when to be softer. As a father role, yeah. I mean, it depends on the coach, really. It depends.
I've seen that a lot in coaching books.
Personally, I am big on the father role coaching, of the positive reinforcement, but having very specific consequences, being a little bit tough, but also very, very, I'm always very personable with my players. I always, almost without exception, have good relationships with all my players individually. And I talk with them, keep in touch with them. I still talk with players that I coached legitimately over 3 years ago. How are you doing? Everything going okay? Anything I can help? That's just who I am. That's the kind of the coach I am. But there are also very successful coaches who are not like that, who don't always develop super great relationships with their players, but they build trust through other means. So it's really it's an art, not a science. People always say that, right? And there's definitely bad art, right? But I think it depends. Saying that, it's a father role, sometimes.
See, the issue with the father role is that only works if you're old enough to be considered.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great point right there. That's actually a great point. You have to have that kind of
for example, I can't walk in there and be like, "Oh yeah, guys, I'm gonna look out for you." I'm like 2 years older than most of the players, maybe 1 year, same age.
I would kill for you to enter a coaching trial for some team and just introduce yourself. Hi guys, my name is Daddy Anima. Just make all the players call you Daddy. Okay, banger. Okay. Leadership that ties with the previous point, but bar the people's skills you really want to stand out as the person everyone team is comfortable talking to. Just support you want to talk to everyone team. Does not teach the skill of setting long-term goals for your team, prioritizing people's errors, and ensure that there's actually improvement over time. Maybe, probably, right?
For the most part, this one isn't too controversial. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really wrong here. There's nothing. I mean, again, there's nothing. There's very little about this post that I'd say is wrong. Just maybe miscommunicated or misapplied, like in the wrong direction. You know,
or misdirected.
it's like saying, guys, listen, vegetables are really, really good for you. Really, really good for you. That's why when you go to sleep every single night, you need at least one carrot stuck in your mouth as you sleep. Otherwise, I just really don't know if you're gonna be doing the right thing. It's like, wait, what?
It's like
Where did that come from?
It's like being like jellyfish don't have a brain, and everybody takes it as an insult.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, I kind of got lost in the point that's you're just trying to give them information.
Exactly. I knew as soon as I said carrot in my mouth, somebody was going to make a comment. Swimmer, good to see you, mate. How are you? Yeah, absolutely. Good coaches don't click for everybody. How's college going, mate? Good luck with the calculus exam. Oh boy, I like calculus better than trigonometry personally. I don't know if you did that high level math, but calculus almost seemed easier. Trig was like, was brutal at the end.
I was lost in a lot of trig. That was rough. Calculus is when I started finally figuring things out a little bit, and then I didn't have to take math again, and then I was kind of like.
So it's not just me.
Bitter.
It's not just me. It was okay. That actually.
It was miserable too. Don't get me wrong, but.
Okay. Maybe it was not just me. Okay, it's good. The semester is double engineering, calculus, and public speaking thrown in. Holy cow! Those sound like some tough skills. You know, my I remember taking a speech class, man, and it was weird. There's definitely it's like art. You know, there's good and bad speech, but also there's like good speech and good speech and good speech. And, art. You know, which one is good and which one's better. You know, nobody really knows. So.
Mm-hmm. And half of it is how you present it anyways. Even if it's a bad speech, if you have great body language, you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, exactly, which is obviously why I was phenomenal at speech, because my communicational skills are perfect.
Off the charts.
Never mumble. Okay. What was the other one here? Watching high ranks, I think. Was that it?
Yeah, I think so. If anyone in the chat has the reminder.
I think it was high rank players. Watching high rank players help you improve. And I'm gonna come up with a really I'm gonna commit seppuku here with this one, because this is actually something that is definitely something that I've seen in my own Discord. Not as much anymore, but especially early on in my streaming days. I'll share a little story here. So, so I remember back in the stream days, I had some. I mean, even like not that long ago, I've had people that consistently watch the stream, and I appreciate it. And listen, if I stream it, it's because I think people are going to find it helpful. That's just the rule, right? But keep in mind, I'm streaming like every day. You know what I'm saying? At least I was for a period of time. And I'll do VOD reviews and things like that. And there were some people who I knew were in my stream every single day for like the entirety of the stream, which was awesome if you're there for learning and education and entertainment, but is not great if you're trying to be an Overwatch League pro. And so I have done reviews with people who there was a little bit of frustration. You could tell of like, man, I watch Spylo all day long. Why am I not improving? That might ironically be why you're not improving. And that's the kind of the thing is, it's like, if you're watching my stream to learn, great, you're going to learn. But then you actually also have to have the time and capability to be able to take and apply what you just learned. And we just talked about this in the first little session. And this really applies to this. Hey, all, Necros. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you loose in this one. What do you think? Hey, see you, Swimmer. Have a good one, mate.
Thanks for stopping. So, first of all, it's like high rank is a little subjective. I know this is nitpicky, but like it's like, well, what's your qualification for like who's good enough to be a a high rank player to help you quote unquote improve?
Right.
This one I have some interesting thoughts on, maybe, because I actually feel it can help a ton once you have the ability to understand what you're seeing enough to the point that you can imitate it with justification. Like there's like a quote by a chess professional or something, Anton something, where he's like watching a professional's games is valuable not to swallow it whole, but like for their way of thought, kind of. And so I know for a fact that I can watch high-ranked players like Lip, Proper, whatever, or even just like let's say I'm like a Master Smurf or something who's in a game. And I know that I can actually imitate their play to a degree, because I have the ability to like break down what they're doing and their justification, and I can see a little bit more out of their lens. I call it like stealing experience, so to speak. I
Yeah.
do like you
Yeah.
can do it with coaching, you can do it with anything. But at the same time, if you're like a brand new player for Overwatch, you're obviously not going to be able to watch Kevster playing and then magically frag out and like just ace their team, right? So I think that there's like a point, and it depends on the person too, because for the vast majority of people, I will say I don't actually think it's that productive to overly watch high ranked players.
Yep. Yeah, I would
But
agree with that.
if it can give you an image for how things should look, because so often we hear, oh, this is how things shouldn't look, right? Like that's what the VOD, the analysis and VOD reviews that most people give are. It's like, you shouldn't be doing that. That sucked. That sucked. This lets you see what they should do. But then, of course, another problem that emerges from that is a lot of the times you can't actually recognize what they are doing that you should not do, because a lot of these people are not infallible either. So then they're like absolutely inting like on like let's say lethal on some of his Creed flanks or cast flanks.
Yeah.
And like yeah, he's a phenomenal player, but you should not be doing that all the time, especially if you don't have lethal's aim.
Right.
So
Right. Exactly.
you have to take it with a grain of salt, right?
Right. I think another thing too is also understanding why they're doing that at that particular point in time. I remember watching a lot of those players and how aggressive they play, and I'd try and mimic that, and it didn't work. But I missed the context of why they were doing that. Like, what was the situation that was allowing them to do that? And a lot of high ranked players aren't even very good at communicating that. Like, even a player like Yeatle, who's from what I know has like the best unranked GM series because of the way he kind of narrates the game.
Yeah,
He's
some
not
very good ones. Yeah.
But even then, he's not going to be able to consistently narrate every single decision he makes and why he did it, and make it processable, if that makes any sense. There's going to be a lot of times where he does things and you're like, whoa, how did he get away with that? And you just have no idea. There's a lot of players that are terrible coaches as well that will give you advice that is actively negative. I think Space was one of the ones who actually gave one of the worst guides I think I have ever seen on Overwatch, and was giving actively negative advice for any player that actually wants to improve. And I was like, man, and people, it has a lot of views. I'm like, oh my gosh, people have probably actively deranked by watching that guide. And that's just like a good example. So I want to hear your thoughts on this one, because I had a good analogy for this. So I got very heavily into like sprint stuff. So I've always been a pretty fast guy. And several months ago during the Overwatch League offseason, I had to apply myself to something. So I was like, all right, sprinting, it is sprinting. You know, I learned everything about sprinting and track and field and the proper stance and the training, and then triphasic lifting and eccentric and isometric, you know, and finding ways to build strength off of that. And I applied myself full-heartedly to it. I was dead in about like within a month and a half. Not I didn't.
We're talking about physically or mentally?
Yes, both. Not just from like I wasn't even particularly like injured. It was just an overall fatigue. Everything hurt all the time. Because I was also at the time not sleeping well because I was staying at my parents' house, and that, you know, obviously the living situation wasn't great because we were still in the process of moving. I was still working at preparing the off-season stuff, so there was like a lot of high stress stuff. So it was just like a lot of factors, and I jumped too fast, right? I did the equivalent of watching the GM player and trying to play like the GM player, and I didn't have the skill set yet to be able to train like that. And it hurt. Like it you know, it messed me up a little bit. It's like, you know, what's the best engine for a Ferrari? You know what I'm saying? And trying to install that into your, you know, your Camry. You know, that's not going to work so well. You don't understand why that engine works so well is because of the carburetor, or the, I don't know anything about cars, the transition or the suspension or whatever else. The car, it doesn't fit, you know? And so I think it's really important, like you said, to have context and have an understanding of how to break down a player, which is why I think, what would be your final answer to this pose? Does watching high ranked players help you improve? You've talked a lot of reasons why it wasn't, why it will. What is your final answer?
I think my final answer would be that it helps within reason, and while understanding that so many variables affect the way that they play, that you cannot copy and paste gameplay.
Right.
You just cannot. Because There's just like let's say the example of like the people going in aggressive. You have like, oh yeah, their ult situation, their team's positioning, the specific map,
Yep.
the enemy team. Maybe they have the enemy team has someone respawning. You have your cooldown, the enemy team doesn't. Like there's just countless variables going in, and it's just overwhelming. And forcing
Yep.
growth faster than normal is painful. I'm just
Yep.
gonna be honest. I
Yep.
don't think like people are like, I want to be a pro or something like that, and it's like. Yeah, man, but the problem is, first of all, the natural rate of growth you're going to have to understand is going to take a long time to get to that point. And if you're going to go faster than the natural rate of growth in terms of your learning, it's going to suck
Yep.
so bad.
Yep.
Like maybe there's ways that you can lessen that, but you're pushing your limits. You're probably going to get a lot worse, and that is going to be what is accelerating your
Yep.
learning, in my opinion, actually, is not having it work correctly.
No.
But yeah,
I mean, I think it's not so much about like every rank has to play differently to improve, so much as trying to do everything right at the same time is simply too much to process and will make you worse. So I'm not
exactly.
So the takeaway here is not, oh, if you're a diamond player and you play like a GM in diamond, it's not going to work. No, if you're actually a GM player and you will pound in diamond playing the exact same way you play in diamond. Maybe you get a little bit less support, but at the same time, the enemy team is less able to punish you for your lack of support. But the main thing for me is the fact that if you're a diamond player, you cannot physically, mentally play like a GM player. So if you try to make that jump to play perfectly, you're going to end up playing worse because you're going to be overloaded with information, and that's going to kill the fun right there. Like the goal is always like, if I'm sprinting, my goal is not to be Usain Bolt. My goal is to be 5% better than I am right now, and I have to kind of look at the situation and be like, what do I need to do better? Because if I train like Usain Bolt, I'm going to hurt myself.
Yep. Yeah, and you just don't have the experience to know your capabilities, and like it just falls apart.
Exactly. I think the other thing too, the last thing I would say is just be careful about how much time you spend watching hiring plans, because it is education, but it is also entertainment. And even if you watch somebody like me, who, if I pat myself on the back, or somebody like you, Anima, who, if you pat yourself on the back, probably as good as educational content you're going to find on Twitch and YouTube. I don't think there's going to be much more you're going to be able to find something that's like quality, good, whatever, but the greatest of all time. That's what I'm trying to say. But even then, limited return on investment. Right.
Yeah, especially because it's diminishing returns too. Like you, the more you watch like your content, for example, like I now arguably wouldn't need to watch your content to have my ideas about the game. I do because we're buddies. But
right.
But like obviously, if I just sit around watching hours and hours of your VODs or whatever, it's like, well, I'm probably not going to become a better player than if I was just playing the game at that point.
That's actually true. The diminishing returns. When I first started getting into coaching, I literally just YouTube like Doomfist guide, and I'd pull up like 20 of them. I'm not even joking. And I just watch boom, 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 boom.
And it can help a ton earlier on.
It
does. Genuinely.
Yeah, absolutely. But then at the end, I was like, I would go through a 30-minute VOD and I'd learn nothing. Maybe a little micro tip. I'm like, I am wasting my time.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, I was gonna say we could call it there, and I wanted to play some quick play with you, and maybe somebody in chat can join.
Delightful.
Are you interested or available?
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. I'm booked for I have like until 50 minutes, so whenever you're done or whatever.
Okay. Well, we'll probably do it off stream because I don't know if my new internet can do both. But before we go, I wanted to once again chat. Let me do the exclamation mark guest command. I had no idea what to call you. I was like, coach. You know, I don't know like whether you're.
I call myself an educator.
Okay,
because I'm not. Yeah, because I'm not currently like coaching because of school stuff.
Right.
But I'm not really a content creator either. So
no, you've done team coaching too. So you're like, I don't know which one you're primarily. Like, there's been times where I was primarily a content creator, primarily a team coach.
Yep.
You have split it right down the middle, and then gone part time just to make things even more complicated. But there's the socials in there. Definitely give Anima a check out. Anybody who gets my thumbs of approval is obviously a legend. Discord
maybe I
as
should
well.
stream the quick play.
Yeah, maybe you should. If you can, I do it up.
I think I can.
Yeah, do it up. Chat. So we're probably gonna actually jump in voice. You know what? You know what would be a great plug? Do you want to join voice in your Discord?
Sure.
So if you guys want to play Overwatch with us, jump in Anima's Discord. We'll get your battle tag, and we'll screw around with some quick play and just have a good time. I can't stick around too much longer, but I'll be happy to do a few games. But blackmail. Anima, thank you so much. I appreciate it coming on, mate, and best of luck. I'll see you in a few minutes. All right.
Of course. Yep.
Have a good one. Yeah, so that was Anima, longtime moderator of my channel. Been a big fan of his for a long time, ever since I was aware that he was doing these huge PowerPoint presentations. Actually, I'm going to post that one more time in case you guys missed it. Not just his socials, but also some examples of his work. Really smart guy, has really taken and gone in a whole different direction. Like he said, at this point, doesn't even need to watch me anymore. He does his own stuff. He figures his own thing. He studies the game. Really, really smart guy. So we're going to go do some Overwatch stuff. We're going to have a good time. Play a little bit of quick play maybe. You guys are welcome to join. We will be in Anima's channel. So you guys will have to jump in his Discord link there, and yeah, we'll just have a good time. But yeah, I'm going to toss a host over to Lockie, one of my old buddies. Tell him I said hello, and I will see you guys hopefully soon. Not sure when our next guest is going to be, but I'll keep you guys in the loop. All right, Spy Lock.
To focus on.